So I just want to say again.
Yes, Jen Lane. Hi.
Jen Lane here. Oh, good. Oh, there she is. Yeah, awesome. Thank you for showing up. We're going to go into meditation pretty soon in a second, but I just really want to stress the importance of this conversation, and I want to say thank you for showing up, and I also want to acknowledge how late we are and how also the time is now. So I just really want to be able to name that, and thank you guys for being here. It's really important. It's really important. So let's just take a moment to be together and to anchor, because this conversation that we're going to have and continue to have is very much a yoga conversation. It's very much a spirituality conversation, and we are going to need our tools so that we can lean into things that are hard and uncomfortable. And so let's just move into a space where we recognize how we have inner resource for strength and for resilience. So take a moment and allow yourself to sit wherever you are. I invite you to take this mudra. It's called Vajra Pradama Mudra. You just interlace your hands and lay your palms flat on your chest. This is the mudra of trust. Allow your eyes to close and your awareness to drop into the space of the heart. And just feel the beat of your heart beneath the palms of your hands. Experience the gentle rise and fall of the breath beneath the palms of your hands. For now, relax your jaw completely and allow the entirety of your awareness to slip from the space of the head and to build in the place of the heart. And as you allow awareness to build in the space of the heart, notice what's present for you right now. And allow that to be held in the space of the heart, however it is that you're showing up here in this moment. Allow yourself to be where you are, as you are, and experience the breath in the space of the heart. Breathing in and out of a heart that is wide enough, big enough to hold this to whatever this is for you, and infinitely more vast. leaning into this breath that is bigger than you. As you breathe in the breath of the earth, the breath of the atmosphere, the breath of everyone and everything on this planet. And as you breathe out, you sacrifice a bit of yourself for the whole. And notice how at the bottom of the exhale and how at the top of the inhale there is a breathless place. It's even bigger than the breath. A spacious gap that is infinitely holding all of the turnings of life for a moment at the bottom of the exhale and at the top of the inhale. Allow your awareness to suspend, to linger in the space between the breaths. Before we get really involved in the details of our humanity, it is really important to acknowledge and to anchor in the presence of eternity. Otherwise, it's just way too risky to dismantle our sense of self. And know that this is a place that you can resource at any time during this conversation, at any time in your life. This is your inner resource. This tether to the eternal, to the infinite, cannot be taken away from you, because it is the fabric of who you are. Remember that. A few more moments resting here in the space of the heart. Breathing in and out of a heart that is wide enough to hold it all. The joy, the pain, the collaboration, the complacency, the unity, the separation, the love, the loss. This heart is wide enough to hold it all. From the space of your heart, allow your eyes to open softly. And let's just take each other in for a moment. I know we're all on the screens. Take in the safety of your friends and yourself. Thank you all so much for dropping in. It's really important when we meet something that is challenging for us to remember to remain anchored to something bigger. Otherwise, we're going to continue to sit in a place where we try to prop our sense of goodness, personal identification, our egos up. And this is a place right now where we have to start examining that from a place of truth. So in yoga, the term we use is svadhyaya, and that means self-study, right? And self-study in the way of, yes, we ourselves must study the texts and the scriptures. Right now, I think that a lot of people are starting to understand how we ourselves must actually study the history of our world from a place that is more truthful. We have to start studying that and questioning that. When I look at the history that my daughter is learning in her school right now, it eliminates huge pieces of the truth. We have to study that and understand. So because we want to understand where we are, we have to understand what got us here. And we don't get to do that by eliminating pieces that don't match something that feels comfortable to us. Svadhyaya also means studying, yes, the scriptures of spirituality and the things that help us to tether to the eternal, not so that we can transcend it, but so that we can immerse in our humanity and be held and allow our sense of individuality and superiority to be decimated. To the degree that we won't, tether here, we will cling so tight here. And then we also have to study ourselves and where we are in our lives and in our moments. So, over the course of however long it takes, it's not just this conversation. This is a conversation that is just a beginning point with this platform. But I want to sort of highlight, what Ashleigh and I have been thinking about and what we've been talking about. And, to us, the important work that we must do as predominantly a community of privileged white people, we have to look at what that means. We have to acknowledge the existence of white supremacy. That's unfortunately a starting place. The fact that a lot of us don't even understand that it exists is a problem. We have to acknowledge its existence. We have to not only acknowledge its existence, but we have to make it ours. Not make it ours, we have to understand how it's ours. To the degree that I put white supremacy out there on my, whatever ignorant friend who doesn't understand how Black Lives Matter and all lives matter are not the same thing, to the degree that I put it out there to, a well-meaning grandparent, to the degree that I put it out there to people who are, dressed up in hoods with AK-47s, to the degree that I put it out there and say it's their problem, that's to the degree I remain a victim and that nothing will change, because white supremacy is mine. I did this. I broke and continue to break equality every day. And it's not a you problem and it's not a they problem. And I'm going to tell you right now, our Indigenous friends, our Black friends, our brown friends, we have been making them do our dirty work for years. We broke it. We need to own that. We continue to break it every day. We continue to break equality every day. We own that. We need to understand how that is ours. And we need to free up our friends of color to not only have to fight for their existence. We're not trying to co-opt their movement, for sure. We have to own what's ours, but we need to free them up so that they can not just only fight for their existence, but begin to live to their full potential. You know, do we think that this is the battle that our Black and brown friends want to be fighting? No, they want to be out creating and living a life of meaning and purpose that is one of making music and running businesses and being out in the wild, being out in the world. They want to be raising their children. We've got to own this. This is ours. This is mine. And so we want to talk about not only, you know, how white supremacy exists, but how it's mine. We need to acknowledge what we get from this system, because then we can understand how we, each and every one of us, are invested in it. We are invested in this system. As white people, we're invested because we get something from it. We get a lot of something from it. So we have to understand the payoff. We need to understand why it exists, why it was created in the first place. White skin better than all other skin. Why was that even created? And why do we continue to perpetuate that? We need to understand that. We need to understand what is the need beneath all of that, so that we can understand that there are other ways than suppressing others to get our needs met. And then we have to understand what we're willing to sacrifice. We will double down on this all day long and put it outside of ourselves, because our sense of safety and value and worth depends on it right now. And so we need to understand what we're willing to sacrifice, and then what we're willing to do about that, how we're actually going to do it, because this needs to go beyond just a conversation. So I want to share with you a poem that I wrote that continues, unfortunately, to keep growing as my perspective and awareness continues to grow. But this is what I mean when I say we need to make this mine. This is called Blood on My Hands. I have blood on my hands, and it won't come clean. No matter how hard I try to ignore it or wipe it away. I have your great-great-granddaddy's blood on my hands, and the blood of your colored mother, who was born into this world that insists that my white skin is worth more than her whole life. It is the blood of the Black boy who has to run for his life, while I safely run to process my thoughts and my stress. I wonder how he's supposed to digest the hundreds of years of pain he's forced to ingest, with everyone watching, waiting for him to step out of line. The police, they're watching. The news desks watching. The boss, the bank, the bus driver watching. The women on the streets clutching their purses, they are watching. The do-good ally subconsciously watching. While his family has to watch the dreams, the brilliance, the possibilities choked out of yet another generation. It is the blood of George Floyd, the blood of Ahmaud Arbery, the blood of Breonna Taylor, and the blood of the babies she will never conceive and hold in her arms. The blood of the indigenous children ripped from their homes and their parents, kidnapped, killed, assimilated. The blood, sweat, and tears of the migrant workers who slaved to get me the stuff that I want while their families are caged at the borders. It is the blood of a genocide upon which this great nation was founded, a foundation of native bones, enslaved bodies, of colored backs forced to bend low under the weight of the past, and a more dressed up modern day oppression, a pervasively subtle domination that looks like not getting the loan, the interview, or landing the client based on the implications of your name, being pulled over again because of the suspicious nature of your skin, which makes you late for work and fulfills the white expectation that never thinks to ask why. It looks like a 6-year-old girl being handcuffed and arrested at school, a Black man serving a hefty prison sentence for possession of marijuana, while a white rapist walks free after 3 months. It looks like a person of color making less while doing more and enduring the effects of an unending stream of unconscious bias that seeps into every conversation and convinces her to succumb to the suppression of her own expression in order to appear safe, so that she can be safe and keep hold of her friends and her job and her kids and the tiny stake that she has certainly earned that we now steal to become a token, a beacon, proof of just how far we've come. It looks like going with the flow, a quick laugh in the privacy of privileged friends at the backyard barbecue and the safety of our white neighborhoods that include just a couple of colored families in order to meet our moral quota so that we can look like we're trying. And silence. It looks like silence when it gets real close to home. And I let things slide to keep the peace in my family at the expense of the peace in yours. It looks like a million big and little things that make sure the game is continually rigged in my favor. So upon this mountain of severed lives, I work desperately hard to climb higher, stronger, better, to get to the top so that I can claim the wealth, the power, this ground of comfort, a place of peace as rightfully mine. But it is not rightfully mine. Only this truth is rightfully mine. Only this choice is rightfully mine. So where do I go from here? With all of this privilege and power and blood on my hands, only this choice is rightfully mine. I participate in white supremacy every day. I am the problem. I am a good white woman who loves deeply her Black friends and her Indigenous friends and her people of color. And yet I sacrifice them so that my family can have what they have. It stops right here. It has to stop by us talking about what it means to be white and what we get from being better than everyone else. Because otherwise nothing changes. We're too invested. And this is why we need something bigger, the eternal at our backs, because we have to tear this system down. It's not about bringing our Black and brown friends into a broken system and helping them up within the system that's held them down for so long. It's like me driving a broken car all over the place and being like, everybody get on in. No, we gotta take the system down. This is not okay. So we have to understand where it came from. We have to understand why we perpetuate it, so that we can get these needs met. All of us get these needs met in a different way. Ashleigh, well, everybody just for a second, let's do this, and I want to turn it over to Ashleigh. Just take a moment to notice how you feel. Not the story of how you feel, but notice actually what it is that you feel. 1 word, 2 words, type it in the comments. Take a moment. You can keep typing in, but after you've typed it in, take a moment to notice where you feel that in your body. And allow yourself to feel it. Maybe even touch on that place wherever it is that you feel it. These samskaras run deep, you guys. These patterns, these habits of white supremacy, they run deep. We have to start digesting them. We have to start feeling them. We have to start, moving through them. This is one tiny little way that you can do that when things come up. Name it and feel it. Not to bypass it, but to let it guide you and show you a new way that lives outside of the habituated patterns, because white supremacy is a habituated pattern that we have been continuing to deepen for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. Ashleigh, I want to turn it over to you, love. I know that you have a lot to add, and turn it over.
Meg, thank you for your amazing words. So powerful and painful, and I've read it, and to hear more of what you wrote, and thank you for the work you're doing and helping us all to do. Yeah. I love the way you started by saying, we're so late. It's really a disgrace, actually. That's what I've been feeling. I didn't write that there, but I feel like a disgrace, honestly. And I'm so happy we're, this conversation is emerging because, Meg and I were just talking when we got on this call that we're looking to some of our teachers and our spiritual guides, and we just are experiencing silence from a lot of them, and it's really pissing us off and frustrating and hurting, shameful, and then just I've also looked at myself to go, it took me it's interesting, being in Costa Rica and not, part of me is like, oh, I need to be there in the US and what's going on, and feeling really distant, and then realizing that is just another excuse, and also, I was feeling so, I didn't even want to say disempowered, didn't know what to say. I was feeling so angry for the past week and a half or so, all things started to emerge in the US, because, and I didn't have the words for it. I was just frustrated about oh my God, who the hell are we to be, as white people, to be, holding up signs and trying to help our Black community members fight for their lives. How the fuck are we even in this place where we're having a conversation that we have to help people fight for their lives, and then I watched this video and I posted it, and I'll share it again. This woman, Sonia, I think her last name's Taylor, and Black gay woman in New Zealand. And she was sharing about a video that, there's this young white girl, kind of Haley, having this conversation with her parents, fighting with them about, how Black Lives Matter, and a discussion over the All Lives Matter versus Black Lives Matter portion. And she was just acknowledging that, hey, I really appreciate that there's a young white girl having this conversation, but the fact that there's a white family having a conversation about another group of people as to whether their lives, they should even exist, or what their lives should be, is the problem. That is the sickness, and that it is actually an inherent. And that was where, for me, like it identified for the first moment of this concept of supremacy that I had otherwise put that on the shelf of kind of like extremism, you know? And it just like hit me so hard, like, oh my God, like I'm a white supremacist. Because while I absolutely believe that in equality and equal rights, I have been gifted and handed to me this whole life in so many different ways that even to have, it's just a privilege to be able to have, it's a fucked up privilege and it's a sickness to like to have to think that like we're doing something by having a conversation about if other people who we're deeming as, you know, different in some way, like who the hell gives us the right, and where does it come from that we believe so deeply in some way that we have a right to even have an opinion on that, you know? And it just, you know, it just like hit me like, okay. And I was like, I don't know. I thank you for this like piece to start to figure out, you know, how deeply this sits, like how blind I am to this privilege. And how fragile, there's a book Meg was telling me she's read it, I haven't read it yet, called White Fragility, you know, and just watching in myself and watching as I share with others and still watching it in myself as like, I bring a piece up and I'm like, no, that's not it. Like, that's the white fragility again. Like, oh, well, that's a really different extreme. I've had, you know, I brought that up like, oh, maybe we need to re-identify the word white supremacy because it's so, fraught with this idea of no, we don't get to fucking re-identify it anymore. That's me being too fragile. It's us being too fragile and going, oh, let's change the system because I can't cope with the reality that I'm a white supremacist just by inherently being white. By the way, in our school systems, we're taught that Columbus founded America. You can't find a place where people have already been living for thousands of years. That's called supremacy. I live in a country right now where I am also a colonist, as much as I try not to be, because I'm white and because of the privilege that I have and the financial stability that I have. I'm here in another country colonizing it. I've lived here for 6 years. I still can't speak Spanish. I'm a white supremacist because of that. And I make up all these excuses. I'm just using myself as an example because like I want to encourage us to be able to go through this process of like dissecting it in our own ways of like how another piece that arises is now I'm awake. Now we're awake. There's tens of thousands, maybe millions of us as white folks waking up right now. And we're like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. Help me. No, we don't get to get helped anymore. Like we don't get to ask for our Black, Indigenous, and friends of color to point us in the right directions to help us. Like, you know, Meg and I were writing this email last night and welcoming people to this call. And I'll just tell you the process we went through. We're about to run our 200-hour teacher training. And we're just fraught with guilt and regret and shame at how we've said for years to each other, like, oh my gosh, we want to expand the diversity in our community. How do we do that? Let's like, how do we welcome other people of color and diverse voices in? We've talked about it, we've wanted it, we've asked some questions, but we haven't actually done anything. So we came up with this, like, let's offer 4 scholarships, which we're going to do. And we feel that that's an important, you know, way to be able to help to welcome more diverse voices into our community. But then we're like, oh, cool. That's just us also perpetuating our supremacy by going like, hey, we want to welcome you into our community by handing you this free stuff.
I want to say something to that too. And you know, the invitation, the scholarship isn't free. I feel like the people that we're offering this scholarship to have paid for this over and over and over and over again. They've already paid.
Yeah.
It's not a free thing from a white chick to a brown person or a black person. It's you've already paid. They've already paid. Their tuition has been bought over and over and over and over again. And what I see is that we don't have, where I live, enough people of color leading the yoga spaces and the spiritual spaces. But they've already, it's not a freebie, it's not a handout. They've paid for it. I should be paying them to be here. You know, they've paid for my lifestyle. They already paid for all of this stuff. The house and the neighborhood that I live in, they've paid. And that's it. It's not a handout. And it's not even to assuage my shame. It's because this is what needs to happen. And I need to do what little things that, we all need to do what little and big things that we can to value not just the suffering of our friends of color. Yes, we have to do that. We must do that. But these are freaking fully amazing people with potential. And they've already fulfilled lots of potential in spite of our best efforts to squash it down. We've got to celebrate not just whiteness. We've got to celebrate what everyone's bringing to the table. I have no doubt in my mind that when we get our foot of oppression off of their necks, we are going to see a societal revolution like we have never in this world seen before. We are going to see amazing discoveries in science and in business and in spirituality and environmentalism and in parenting and in this whole world has lost out on the tremendous gifts that whole populations of people bring just because of the color of their skin. So we need to be clear that this is not a handout, and that whatever work that it is that we're doing to be anti-racist, it's not a handout. It's what we must do to save society. And that there is no earning necessary. There is no deserving necessary. And we need to change that view of white saviorship, because that's just another way that white supremacy exists in what it is that we do as well-meaning good white people. I don't know what is, I think it's, I don't know, say it like this. I think it is as dangerous to be a well-meaning white person that continues to work within the systems of supremacy as it is to be an outright white supremacist like we would see on the news. That is as dangerous, as harmful. It's not a handout. We need those perspectives in our community. We need those voices. Our community is anemic and it's dying because we are predominantly one-sided. We're not even one-sided. We're just like, it's like we're walking around with just one right arm. The rest of our body of community is not, is barely represented. We can't exist like this. So I just really want to be clear that, you know, the scholarships are not a handout. They have been paid for. And it is not because I'm, you know, like Ashleigh and I want to do something good. We want to do the right thing. It's because we need the rest of our humanity here at the table for the good of everyone. I just wanted to say that, Ash. Sorry for cutting you off.
So we decided to make sure that we had this call first, because while I think we watched it happen in the kind of macro online community world as well, where there was first this acknowledgement of, hey, let's, as white folks, quiet our voices for a little while and help to lift up and amplify our friends of color. And that, yes, we need to do this. And like Meg said, everything about the scholarships is, it's not a handout. This has been earned. And yet there was, for us, I was just trying to talk you through our process to understand, you know, the like unearthing and unpacking of a really sick system, you know, and just like, and continuing to question within yourself as those arise. Cause we said, we're like, oh, wow, this can be perceived as that, holy shit, that's not really what our intention was, but whoa, okay, this could be how this could feel. And let's be really, really, really clear about what we're offering. And that this way of lifting up and supporting and acknowledging and honoring our brothers and sisters of color and our Indigenous friends, but that's not anywhere near enough. That's not anywhere near enough, because what we also do not have the right to do anymore is to ask them so much how we can help. Like Meg said, I listened to an analogy also that was really good. That was kind of like, if you were Cinderella, or sorry, Sleeping Beauty, right? Or what's the name? What's her face who sleeps with the dwarves? Snow White. Thank you, Snow White. I'm like, which one am I going to? You're Snow White, right? Snow White's been sleeping for all of these years. She's sleeping, getting her beauty sleep for eternity. She's like, guess what? The dwarves are working their asses off to make sure that she's safe and she's protected and she's all comfortable. And then it's like we wake up from our slumber. We're like, oh, could you help me understand the world that I'm in now? And how do I fix it? How do I integrate in it? No. The BIPOC community has been doing this work, creating for decades now, resources for us and for the world to pay attention to. It's our job to actually go find the resources and do the work. I really appreciate the conversation that's out there right now about the emotional labor that now this swell of white folks waking up is putting on the Black and Indigenous community to give us more information. It's not their job. It's our job and our work to seek this and find this out. Self-sufficiency. I watch it show up for me when I'm like, oh my God, I don't know how to speak the language. I'm kind of afraid. My car's broken down. I don't know how to figure out how to get this thing. I'm gonna have someone else help me. I don't know how to do this thing. It's too much for me. I'm gonna have someone else try to help me. I'm going to hire them to come breastfeed my child or cook my food or clean my house. No. And I'll justify it to myself by saying, oh, I'm giving jobs. No. Our role here is to help support equality of everyone, not someone else cleaning my house so I can do the creative work when they're equally as meant to be able to do the creative work that they desire. And how far back it goes in our ancestry and our system to justify that, oh, providing jobs and providing these spaces is us doing our good work. We have to look at that more. I'm not saying we have the answers here right now. It's a huge overhaul, the biggest overhaul of our system. And it's not going to be easy, and it's not going to take long. It's going to take a long time. It's not going to be fast. And I don't want to add too much more right now, because what we really want to get through in this call is like this importance of self-reflection and self-study, and for us to go away today to really look and own white supremacy as our own, white privilege as our own. Notice where we succumb and we buy into this white fragility. See it where it's uncomfortable. Write about it, talk about it. Do your own research, be self-sufficient. You know, and where we want to go in the next few calls is how did we get here? You know, going back to, we're actually, this is actually a really beautiful bridge to where we were 2 weeks ago on this call, of talking about how we diverged away from being in communion with nature, our indigenous roots, how that evolved into colonialism, how that evolved into us needing to dominate over society and therefore dominate over one another. And so we're going to go there, and we're going to understand how we buy into it every day. But it's big work. So right now it's about really looking in your life and looking in your tendencies to see, and Emelie's putting some really great resources in here to share. Thanks, Em. Of how to start to do some of your own research and your own work and take this into and become accountable. I think maybe for the last couple of minutes, we can open it up if one or two of you would like to share.
You guys can just raise your hand either on the screen, or if your video is on in person, then we can unmute you.
Yeah.
Okay, Trey. Hold on, let me unmute you.
We can unmute you. Where are
I
you?
think.
There he is.
Unmute. There we go. All
Sorry,
right.
I think I
Oh, we've unmuted you at the same time. All right, Ash, I'll let you do it.
But now it's saying I have to ask to unmute.
Okay, here, let me unmute. Okay. Oh.
Maybe Trey needs to unmute himself now.
There we go. Trey, are you there?
Yes.
There you go.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Thank you.
I just want to express first and foremost how these conversations can be uncomfortable. And I was almost like, geez, how is this call going to be today? And because they're so uncomfortable, but at the same time, they're conversations that need to be had. And I had to be on this call because this does my heart good, hearing these words from people with different color faces than me. I have been a beneficiary of having an even lighter complected skin tone than some of my friends, and I've been in those situations. And just looking at how narrow viewed people are and what they respond to is something crazy. And at the other end, I've been pulled out of cop cars and had my hat taken off to saying, where's the drugs? Like, dude, not me, like, wrong guy. But I just want to express how much it does my heart good. Like I said, I put in the comments, I felt heavy these past weeks. I've never spent more time just crying in the bottom of the shower just because I didn't know what in the world actually is. But like I said, I appreciate hearing these words and seeing the motivation now. And there's been so much human distortion. The past couple days, I've just been deep in Disney Plus's nature collection. And I think once the major, okay, people are waking up, we can start moving to make these changes in equality. There's even a deeper underlying divide and conquer nature, animalistic nature in us, that people don't even realize that we're separate from the animals, and the fact that we can choose and that have logic. We have so much power and create everything we want, but we're not choosing to be fair to one another. And yeah, I mean, there's so much to say, but yes, thank you. Here we are. Here's the conversation, and it, like I said, does my heart good, and I can feel the change coming.
Thank you so much, Trei, for showing up today. I feel like, you, other Black people and Indigenous people and Brown people have carried this uncomfortability all by themselves for far too long. And we, as well-meaning white people, we actually knew that. And, we're late, but we're here. And I understand that for a lot of folks, it's going to take a lot of time for us to earn the honor of holding you. And it's time that we dig in to do the work to earn that honor. And if it takes all my life, and if it takes all my life of being uncomfortable the way that a lot of people that I know, because of the color of their skin and because of where they were born, they've had to carry that uncomfortability. If it takes all my life to take even a little bit from them, it's time that I'm uncomfortable. It's time that we as people of privilege are uncomfortable. Yoga is not about being comfortable. I mean, you guys have seen the back bends. You think that's about being comfortable? No. It's about being able to show up for hard things. It's about being able to show up for each other. It's about being able to show up for change. And that's not easy. And Trei, I just ever since, I met you on these calls, I feel like your wisdom is amazing. And I just can't tell you how much I appreciate you, just you and you being here. And I don't know, I just appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I appreciate this community so much. Like I said, I don't have many of these spiritual or actually how we change, like integrating here as humans conversations in general, or yoga conversations in general. So I appreciate this community so much, and I'm glad to be a part. And like, as my community, of course I'm gonna show up. We're having a hard conversation. This is our community, though. I'm gonna be here, of course.
Thank you, Trei. We'll probably have time for one more person. Just want to be mindful of time. Emelie, you can unmute yourself. It looks like yeah, there you go.
Okay. Hey, everybody. So I just want to share some ways that you can immediately take action. First of all, thank you so much, Meg and Ashleigh, for having this conversation. And I agree, we're late, but we're doing it now, and that matters. So when you're signing something and when you're donating to somewhere, as white people, we can be very overzealous and like, gotta do it. Please read. please read every word on what you're signing and where you're donating to, because there are a lot of fake petitions and a lot of false organizations who are actually in support of more of a reformation of the police, which is actually not defunding them or reforming the system at all. It's just another way to hide, which is what we've been doing since the civil rights movement in the 60s. So I just wanted to give that extra encouragement. Please, please read when you're taking action, signing, or donating, and be certain that you align with what the message is in your heart. Because again, there's a lot out there right now. Secondly, I posted one specific Black-owned website that sells the book White Fragility. Please don't purchase from Amazon or Audible right now. They are actively supporting the Trump campaign. I've done a significant amount of research into this, and it's the truth. And so right now, we can take action with our money, with our dollars. And so below that, I posted an article by Refinery, I think 29, and it's just a list of a lot of Black-owned bookshops that are operating online right now, who are showcasing books that are resources that we can pay for, that are going directly into supporting Black educators. It's not us just on social media asking, like Ashleigh said, show us the way. It's like, no, we're smart, we're capable. Find these resources, here they are, and then let's pay these educators who are putting the time and the effort into us experiencing our own dismantling of fragility and supremacy. And then Brene Brown, I don't know if y'all know Brene Brown, she hosted Ibram X Kendi. I posted the Spotify podcast there. This is a great place to start. Somehow he manages in his heart to find an overwhelming amount of compassion for white people right now, and manages to give us information on our own fragility and racism in a way that really softens. And he doesn't have to do this. He chooses to do this. This is how he wants to show up right now. And I just finished reading the book, How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram X Kendi. And it's about, it really, really kind of holds exactly what Ash was saying about the woman of color in New Zealand who sees a conversation with between a white family. It really gives us a lot of skills to act in grace and compassion while we're having these really uncomfortable conversations, without feeling like we're attacking one another or somebody who seemingly has an opposing side. Right now, I feel really called in terms of what my role is in this movement, to be a sounding board and a place for allies to get resources, because that's pretty much what I've been doing the last week. So if you want to talk, or if you just want resources and more information, please hit me up personally. I would love to connect and share all of what I've uncovered and what I've been reading, and different educators, Black educators that I've paid to educate me. Yeah, that's it. Thanks again, Ashleigh and Meg.
And do you want to put your email address or way that you would like people to contact you in the chat right here, so that they can contact you?
Mm-hmm. I'm going to put my cell phone too, because I am a talker, and if you want to talk or text is easier for you than email, that's cool too.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
I want to thank you for doing that and being a good resource for all of that. And it's super important that we engage in this in our own education and in, informing ourselves, taking action on the right things and that kind of thing. And like, it's an and don't let your jumping into action be the thing that allows you to bypass how this is yours. We have to do the inner reflective work. Sometimes jumping into action right away is how we make ourselves feel better and put it again outside of ourselves. So yes, take action, and at the same time, we need to take the time and reflection to acknowledge how we are perpetuating white supremacy. And so what I would encourage that you do this week is just to start to name all of the ways in which you benefit from this system. Really take it into yourself and take the time to anchor to something bigger, so that you're not as fragile when it comes up in your face. But notice the payback you get from suppressing others. Because to the degree that we don't notice that, we are going to unconsciously stay invested in this system. So do all the action and do all the meditation, but don't spiritually bypass. Don't action bypass either. Like, do those two things, you know, continue to anchor in your meditation practice, continue to do that anti-racist action work that's kind of out in the world. But part of the anti-racist action work that needs to be done is to sit in deep inner reflection and notice how insidious the white supremacy is, and notice how it's yours and what you get from it. Then we can start to understand why it's there. And then we can start to understand, is there another way to get our needs met that doesn't have to oppress someone else for our benefit? So just notice, I mean, I noticed myself wanting to jump into action, like, what can I do? What can I do? As a mode of bypassing the deep pain that I feel from being complicit. And then actually naming how I'm complicit. So just make sure that we're not using action as a bypass tool. You know, like, it's all of these things: inner work, outer action, meditation, you know, these things. But please do not just, you know, because this is what makes this work like really have a difference from our standpoint. We've really got to understand that about ourselves. Otherwise, we again continue to prop up the "I'm a good white person" narrative. I'm doing my part. We're doing it on the surface level, but we got to do it. We got to do it here. We got to own this. So I know that we're at time. I think we should wrap it up. Ashleigh, do you want to wrap this up for us, love?
Well, I think, you know, along with that contemplation that Meg offered, like I had mentioned earlier, really as a way to help you get into that place of how you benefit from this system and this structure, really start to be inquisitive about how these privileges and supremacies exist for you in your daily life that maybe you haven't seen before. Just kind of as I talked you through a little bit of my reflection and Meg's reflection and our reflection together, and let this be in your journaling practice and your meditation practice. Have conversations with one another. I think everything else has been said, honestly. Thank you so much for being here. It's so beautiful to gather with all of you. I love you all so much. And please come back next week. Let's talk together next week. Bring your voices, your insights, welcome others. I think there's many others out there who are not sure of where a safe space to have these conversations is, who are interested, and welcome them. You know, please spread the word. So thank you again for being here. Thank you for the work that you're doing, for being open to this conversation, and sending you so much love, and we'll see you next week. Thank you. Much love.
Love you all.